Cross was so good, I had to break down into 3 parts. Now, I really want to talk about the dynamic between 2 John and Cross, Alex Cross. Now, you don't see a lot of Black Brotherhood in a positive way in these shows. Now, I think this show, I wish it would get more love, more attention, because it's so rich and has so many layers. And looking at their relationship, it shows you just how Black men can be vulnerable. Black men can have a relationship with each other that brings up one another. Now you see 2 John and you see Alex trying to navigate the world, okay? 2 John is really like an uncle or brother to Alex, and how their relationship dynamics really progresses the storyline of these episodes. And how at times the egos and pride, once again, of both men get in the way of them being able to see each other, build and work through one another's issues to ultimately catch a killer. Okay, now Alex at times is just like, I have a thought and I'm gonna run with it. Okay, I don't care what nobody says. Once my mind is made up, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna act on it. And you have 2 John, who is actually kind of trying to get him to settle down, look at himself, and self-reflect. And now I think we need more examples of Black men in these shows raising up one another, holding them accountable, teaching them to be vulnerable. And Cross, you see, is at a crossroads of trying to be a father, be a good investigator, police officer, a friend, a son, so many different layers in his life. And I want to talk a little bit also about the relationship he has with his son, and how at times I feel like there are these layers of these generational things you're seeing with a young boy, a young Black boy, and his father, and the dynamic of trying to raise him through grief, through your own trauma. At times as a single parent, even though he had a lot of support from Nana Mama, but trying to raise him through your own grief. Okay? And the young boy starts having issues because his father is not paying attention to him. He wants to be seen. He wants to be heard. But Cross is so obsessed with finding the killer of his wife, catching Ramsey, that at times he forgets about his son. And so the son starts to act out for attention. And a lot of times we see young kids, Black boys, being labeled as a problem in the classroom, at school. The surface level to me is the behavior. There is always a deeper thing. And I think in this case, his son just really wanted to be seen, heard, and paid attention to. And also I think the son was going through his own layers of grief, trying to navigate not only that my mom is gone, but my father is often gone. Okay, how do I show up? Where do I want to be seen? But that anger shows up more as a anger, and then the grief is down here. Okay, but you see how over time, I think Cross starts to self-reflect through the help of 2 John. 2 John is like, you need to deal with your mess, buddy. You need to really sit with yourself and self-reflect and take some time to work through it, get some help. But Cross is like, I got this. Okay, you stay in your lane, I'm gonna stay in mine. And when Cross gets to the point where he loses his badge, that's when you really start to see 2 John and Cross really butt heads. Okay, because at times Cross feels like John does not have his back, and John is trying to do the right thing, but they're both 2 Black men trying to figure out the world in different ways. Okay, and Cross is trying to move forward in his life, but he hasn't worked through his ish. You can't move forward without working through the things that are causing you pain, the things that you have been stuffing. And it takes John to really, I think at times, be like, man, you got to work through this. But the pride and ego of both these men at times get in the way. And because of that, they have a separation because of the egos. Now, how many of y'all have been in relationships where your ego gets the best of you and it hurts your relationship? So much so that there's probably a friend, a partner out there, a relationship that you wish you can go back and fix or work on, but your ego got in the way. Okay? And it progresses, and we see how Cross goes on this trip with his son. And ultimately, in the beginning, he didn't want to take his son. But it shows me just how Cross the son, John, and Peter, all Black men, showed up in different ways. I think the son showed up very much, I need a father, I want attention, I'm going through grief. And you see how from a boy to a man, his father, how that grief manifested. Okay? And then you have John, who seems for the most part pretty stable, okay, quiet to himself, but he trusts the wrong people at times. And at times, we saw how that caught up with him. And then you have Peter, another Black man, going through grief. All these men show us the different aspects of what grief looks like. It can be a way to separate yourself. You can get lost in it. It can make you obsessive, okay? Even though Peter did not actually lose someone where it was a death, it almost felt like him losing, I think her name is Deidre? We call her the Snow Bunny over here. Him losing the Snow Bunny, okay, made him just go into this obsessive state where he wanted Cross to feel his pain, okay? And all these layers of trauma and grief are sprinkled into all these different men, the boy too, okay? Just how in Black relationships with one another, men to men, how it all shows up, okay? You pulling away, you pushing away, you thinking that you got this, your homie trying to tell you you don't got it, bruh. You need to sit down and work on your ish, or it's gonna continue to catch up with you, okay? But just how much it was tied into all the way that they moved, all of them, okay? And eventually, Nana Mama pushes Cross to take his son on this trip, and he really didn't want to take him, but the trip was really big. Being a father and a son in that car, having those conversations, being vulnerable, the son feeling like, okay, I can finally talk to my dad. I really want to ask you something. I want you to answer it honestly and real with me, okay? Looking at that scene, could y'all really handle your child asking you for real answers, and could you really be honest? That to me was the first time I think that Cross was confronted with his grief and seeing it in his son, and the lack thereof of him not being able to be present, and how much of a shackle not only did the trauma and the grief have on him, but his relationship with his son. And through this trip, we see Cross be vulnerable with his son. And that was a pivotal scene for me because it showed just how a Black father is mirroring to his son that you can be vulnerable. Look at me. I'm being vulnerable. I'm having emotion. And it's making us closer. It's showing us that we can come together. And once the trip was over, you see the change in the young man. How he was able to now, I think, see himself differently, have more confidence, and really believe in his relationship with his father. Okay? And a young boy, you need that. You need that mirror to you, need that dynamic. And I think juxtaposition, Peter was missing that. Okay? Peter did not have that father role. He did not have that mirroring. And I think because he saw that with Cross and his son, he wanted to take some of that. He wanted him to feel the same pain. And the way he thought he could get to Cross was through his kids. Now, he ultimately did not want to hurt them. He just wanted him to feel the pain. Okay, he was going to do something, but he was not trying to set them on fire, y'all. Okay, but just how it is okay for Black men to be vulnerable, to work on themselves. Okay, and you also see Bobby. I don't know what Bobby's like family dynamic was, but that man was crazy, okay? He was crazy. But just how each of these men impact one another, and how John was able to finally get Cross to ultimately go to therapy, make his amends with that tape with the guy he beat up, okay? Because Cross stopped running from his pain, or stopped running from his trauma, and saw how his pain was affecting so many people, okay? And when Cross needed John the most, he went to his house after finding out that Miss Nancy had her own plans at that cabin. He went on that door and he said, "You was right. MF, I need you right now," okay? And so John, no questions asked, his ride or die, which let me know if we should retire that term, ride or die, okay? His ace boom coon was like, "Bruh, I got you. Let's go get your family. Let's do this right now." And ultimately, it showed us the different levels of brotherhood, the different layers of connectedness, and how, once again, trauma impacts relationships. Cross was not dealing with his trauma, and how it showed up in his brotherhood. It showed up how he was seen, his anger. We saw him lash out in that police locker room. Okay. We saw at times how his ego and his pride got the best of him, got in the way of him and John. And when he blew up at that party, Ramsey's birthday party, it was another example of of his ego. Okay. He wanted to outsmart, he wanted to get one over on Ramsey so bad that he literally blew up his whole career. Okay. The ego and the pride. Okay. And how different layers of ego-ness, big ego, little ego, mega ego, ego-driven death really impacted the dynamics here. And with Peter was a follower. He was following behind his mother, Miss Nancy. He had no type of guidance. And the only guidance he had was a mother who had her own issues, the trauma. As mothers, we have to work through our own trauma, and we have to heal those things, because look how it ended up for Peter. Having a surrogate mother who was not healed, who had her own vendetta and personal demons so much, I'm sure him coming in contact with that impacted his mind, as we saw. Okay, so much so that I think when she was at a point where she was ready to light them kids up, literally, he saw a different version of her that he did not want to be a part of. But since he didn't have a true sense of self, he himself followed her path. Okay, even against his will when he really didn't want to. And now another mother we saw in this was Nana Mama, and how at times she did annoy me. Okay, she was doing a little bit too much, but ultimately she had the best interest of Cross and the children. Okay, and how Cross, his own mother, had substance abuse issues, and how Ramsey's tried to use that against him, manipulate him, and embarrass him. And I think for a second it did, but since he had the guidance and I think parenting of Nana Mama, it didn't really affect him. Having that type of mother who I think at times just really wanted to help him, be there for him. At times he did push her away, but I think that was just out of trauma. That was out of him having this narrow mind of, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do, and I don't want nobody to get in my way, even you. It wasn't until he almost lost her that he realized how much of his own ish was getting in the way of more of his relationships, almost losing her. He saw the impact on her, his relationship with Elle, his relationship with his daughter, how the women in his life were all impacted by the different traumas that he has been through. And ultimately, he was able to work through, go to therapy, and start healing from a lot of those things. Now, of course, there were things about this show that annoyed me. Okay. The slow policing, okay? How the first girl, when she was in the hotel room, it took them forever to find her, okay? How when Ramsey's went to go pick up the prescription for Shannon, you mean there was no cameras in that pharmacy? Nowhere in the vicinity to show that, you know, who really picked up that prescription for her skin condition, okay? Some of it didn't really make sense. John driving up to the mountain, and it looked like it was AI. Okay, but again, I have to remember it's a TV show. But it was really good, y'all. I hope everyone takes the time to watch it. There are so many layers. There are so many things I can still go over. Let me know in the comments what you still want to really talk about. Maybe I can make a quick little video about it. But this show is really good, okay? And I think this is the third time they tried to make this. Tyler Perry did it. I think they did like a movie. But this was written very well. It had a lot of layers, different bits and pieces that I think as an audience, so many people can relate to, so many people maybe have been through, that I hope they get a second season, which I'm pretty sure they will. Okay, I need Amazon to get y'all marketing together, because this show to me was not really marketed heavily, but luckily I did find it. I gave it a try, and I love detective shows. I love crime shows, and you gave me a little bit of Dexter, you gave me a little bit of Criminal Minds, a tiny bit of The Wire. Okay, you put all those things together, and what you get is Cross. It took me on an emotional roller coaster I didn't see myself coming on. I was irritated. I was happy. My heart was pounding. I was like, run faster, girl. You're almost there. Just, Shannon, can you run a little bit faster? And then Ramsey would piss me off. Like, can you die already? Just die. Okay? But let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this show? Have you watched it? Is it in your favorites? Are you going to rewatch it? Because, of course, we can get into it. And I will see you guys in the next video. What are we watching next, y'all? Bye.